Hello again everyone from Tokyo, Japan, and welcome back to Japan Vintage Camera. This is my second video from the park today. I figured I'd make as many videos as I can while I have the time to make them. So hopefully I may have time to make a third video after this. I don't know. I'll have to wait and see. It continues to be a nice day at the park, and after this video I'm going to go ahead and get myself some lunch before I do anything else. So the second video today is about a really popular camera, one of the most popular Minolta cameras ever produced, and that is the Minolta SRT 101. The Minolta SR series was introduced in the early 1960s with the SR1, and eventually we had the SR2 and SR3. Then we had the 101, and in Japan and other markets there were different names for the different models of cameras. I can't go over, I don't know all the model numbers of the export models, but in Japan we had the SRT 101, 201, 301, 401, 501, and SRT Super, and then there was a motorized version which was called the SRM. So quite a few variations of this camera, but the most popular of all of them was the SRT 101, which was introduced in 1965 or 1966 and had a production run of about 10 years. And the most popular, by far and away the most popular of the SR series. It was used widely around the world by amateur and a few professional photographers, or maybe many professional photographers. Those of you who like photography, I'm sure, are familiar with the name of Annie Leibovitz. She is one of the photographers which has used the Minolta SRT 101 camera, and I'm sure quite a large number of other photographers as well. I used to sell quite a few of these in my online store, but I haven't had any in a while, mainly because I've been focusing on other things. But I plan to be selling more of these Minolta cameras in the future because they are very well made and reliable cameras, and when I buy cameras to service and resell, I prefer to get the kind of cameras which are reliable and don't require major surgery or parts replacement in order to keep them working. And the Minolta SRT camera, like the Canon FTB cameras I sell, are among those. They are very simple, rugged, reliable cameras, and they don't have any weaknesses or faults. Which I wish I could say the same thing about all cameras. Normally, in the various, I guess, mini camera designs out there, pretty much all of them have a weakness or two, and some of these are fatal weaknesses. But the SRT is not one of those, and the Canon FTB is also not one of those. These are solidly made, I mean very well made, rugged and reliable cameras. And pretty much the only way to get them to stop working is to abuse them in some way. Drop them in the water, get them full of sand, drop them off, down a flight of stairs. That'll probably stop them working, maybe. But when you use them the way they're supposed to be used, you can use them pretty much forever. So I'll go ahead and describe the features and functions and how to use the SRT 101, starting at the top here. Of course, we have the film rewind knob located on the side here, and it pops open to give you a little bit of leverage. On the top here we have a shoe to mount a flash gun. It's not a hot shoe, so if you want to use any kind of flash on it, you will have to take advantage of one of the PC sync sockets here. We have an X sync socket here, we have FP or focal plane socket on the other side. Next to that we have the shutter speed dial. And combined with the shutter speed dial is the film speed dial. So to adjust the film speed, you pull up on the collar around the shutter speed dial and you turn it until the film speed you want to select lines up in the small window on the top of the dial. Next to that we have the film winding and shutter charging lever, and the shutter button is located right in the center. The shutter button is threaded to accept a standard cable release. Next to that we have the film counter window. On the back of the camera we simply have a couple of things. We just have the viewfinder window, and it has slots on either side of the plastic which allow you to mount an eye cup to it or to mount a diopter adjustment. So if you wear glasses, you can just put on the diopter adapter here and you can operate the camera without wearing your glasses. On the bottom here we have a dial, which is a film speed reminder dial to remind you what kind of film you have loaded in the camera, in case you don't want to bother taking a look at the film speed indicator on the top. One problem with this dial is it's kind of easy to turn. So if you're putting it in case or you're taking photos and you bump into it, it's kind of easy to knock it out of adjustment. If you only use one particular type of film, it's no big deal. I pretty much use just two kinds of film. I use Fujichrome Velvia 50 and Kodak Tri-X. Those are my cameras are going to be set to one or the other of those two film speeds. I use the Tri-X in full manual cameras because it has a large margin of error, and the Velvia I tend to use in more modern cameras with more sophisticated meters because you need a little bit more accuracy in the light metering when you're using slide film. I kind of prefer the cameras which have a panel on the back which allows you just to slide in the paper cover for the film speed you are using. That's what most pros prefer, and they prefer it for a reason. But still, this is okay, and if you're just shooting film for fun and you're using one kind of film, then this is irrelevant. Don't worry about it. On the bottom of the camera, we have the release button, which you must depress in order to release the winding mechanism and rewind the film. Next to that, we have the battery chamber cap, which you remove by simply pushing with your thumb and turning leftwards until it comes out. If it's stuck or you buy a camera and you can't get it off, there are a couple of holes put in here, and if you have a lens spanner wrench, which most people don't have, you can remove it with that. If you don't have a lens spanner wrench, you can get an old pair of needle nose pliers and just file the tips sharp on them enough to reach into these and give it a twist, and it will come off. These cameras originally used an MR9 mercury battery, which is no longer available, but you can get by with a PX625 alkaline battery. The voltage is a little bit different on the battery, so the meter may not be so accurate when you're using an alkaline battery, but then that varies from camera to camera. It may be quite accurate in the particular camera you have, or it may be up to 2 stops off. It's pretty much just trial and error to try to get what works best. The best option for batteries with these cameras, the MR9 powered cameras, is a wine cell battery. And these are easy to find on eBay and Amazon and such like that. They work really well, they last quite a while, and they give you the right amount of voltage. So if you have a sensitive meter which requires the precise original voltage, the wine cell is the way to go. We have a standard tripod socket on the bottom, and this will fit on any regular 1/4-inch tripod. And over here we have the power switch for the light meter. The camera uses a match needle light meter system inside, and it has a couple of indicators, one which will indicate the aperture and not the aperture number, but the location of the aperture, and also for the shutter speed. So an interesting feature which a lot of other cameras didn't come with. You have to remember to turn off the light meter here if you are not using the camera. If you're using the original MR9 mercury batteries, which no one can anymore because they don't make them anymore, unless if you take a trip to Russia, you can still find them there. But yeah, make sure to leave it off. The alkaline batteries and wine cell batteries do not last so long if you leave the meter on, whereas the MR9 mercury batteries, if you leave the meter powered on, you can leave it on for months and months, and it doesn't seem to have much effect on the battery. There's a battery check position on the switch, so you can switch that and then look through the viewfinder, and the meter needle will line up with a mark inside the viewfinder, and this will let you know the condition of the battery. Moving to the front of the camera, we have a few important controls here. First, I'll show you how to take off the lens. You have to do that by pushing down on this tab here, where my thumb is moving. Just push that downward toward the lens, and then turn the lens counterclockwise and lift it off. The original lenses for these cameras were the MC Rocore lenses, and the standard lens was a 50 or 55 millimeter f1.8 lens, but you can fit any number of Rocore lenses on these cameras. If you have one of the really old wide-angle lenses, the SRT 101 has a mirror lockup, which I am activating by turning the switch with my thumb. With these lenses, you have to move the mirror out of the way because the rear element fits deep inside, close to the shutter curtains. But for every other lens, you can just leave the mirror down. Mounting the lens is quite easy. First you locate the red dot on the top of the lens, and you locate the red dot here on the top front center of the camera. You line these up together, push it in, turn it clockwise until it clicks, and the lens is mounted. That's all there is to it. Going over to this side, I previously described the mirror lockup switch, which you can turn with your thumb. Next to that we have the self-timer lever, and below that we have the depth of field preview button. So when you select the aperture, say, you can push that in and it will stop down the aperture blades and allow you to see what kind of depth of field that the lens is seeing. So pretty much a very simple and basic layout. This camera is very similar to the Canon FTB in the design, in the way it handles, the way it feels. The FTB might be a little bit smoother, but then maybe not. It depends on the version you happen to have. The SRT 101 is a wonderful camera. It's sturdy, it's reliable. The mechanism in it is fully mechanical, so if you can't find a battery for one of these things, or the battery goes dead, you can still operate it. You can get an app for your smartphone, a light meter app, and this will allow you to set up the camera quite accurately. So anyway, that's about it. If you have any questions about the SRT 101, feel free to ask them in the comment section below. I plan to be listing some of these cameras for sale in the future. I used to sell a lot of SRT cameras in the past, but recently I just haven't. I've been focusing on other cameras, so as I find more time, if I find more time, I'm going to try to get more of these. If you're interested in buying a vintage Japanese camera, I sell these on my new online store, japanvintagecamera.com. I also sell them at my Etsy and eBay stores. Please check the description below the video for links to my stores. If you want to see more videos, please subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you tune in again soon.